making sure that we do a good job at educating the younger generation on the amount of control that they have. I know that, at least where I come from, there's a lack of I would say effective leadership. And the reason I say effective leadership is because if you don't have power in this world, I don't think it's effective to try to exercise power on someone that you're raising. I don't think it's healthy to try to exercise the power that you don't have on a kid, your son, your daughter, just because you know that you're above them. And nobody would admit it, but I've observed more than enough to know that we tend to try to be we take advantage of the fact that we have someone, and I'm speaking of something in particular, but I've seen many examples of specifically women. This is where I've seen it the most. That's not to say that it only happens with women, but I could speak on the examples that I've seen and go from there. So as I walk around in the marketplace, or if I'm just walking around in the marketplace, I'm doing something, I'm either at the store or wherever I'm at, and I just observe a woman with a son, I see the amount of authority that they want to have over their kid. The amount of authority that they try to exercise over a 5-year-old, a 6-year-old. And while you do get compliance, the kid listens, he pays attention, you have him on lock, if you will. You're not fucking raising effectively. What you're doing is you are essentially making a young man weak. And now when it's told to you directly in terms of what it is that's happening, some people may brush it off, and some people may say good, or some people may say that's not what's happening, he needs to respect me, etc. But I don't know if we are pondering it from different angles. I don't think we're looking at it from a long-term point of view. I don't think that we're thinking about the ramification of what happens when you are raising a young man to listen to that type of authority. Because if you're teaching them at a young age to submit, to comply to that type of attitude, and you're utilizing fear, and you're utilizing your fake fear tactics as an older person, as a mother, then what you're doing is you're weakening that man's ability, that young man's ability to actually say no to someone that is taking advantage of them in the real world. What am I talking about? Well, just think about it. If they're used to, if that's what they're used to, if they're being taught to just listen to somebody that's disrespectful or that has that type of fake authority, that's what they're going to gravitate to in the real world. That's what they're going to look for. They're going to look for leadership. They're going to look for roles that pretty much demand for them to do whatever it is that is needed. And it may not even happen consciously. They may not be doing this on purpose, but I would rather respect, I would rather teach by giving them options. I would rather, now again, I'm not saying that I understand that there's a barrier, there are barriers, and I understand that there's a lot of stuff that, sometimes when you're raising a kid, it gets annoying. Realistically, it gets hectic, and you have to be really big internally to be able to let that shit slide. But when you think about every single side of it, it's like, where's that coming from? Where's all that noise coming from? And a lot of it has to do with the television. And I got to do a better job at explaining the ultimate point, but I don't think that we're being effective as older individuals having authority over our kids by forcing them or just being just forcing them to do shit. Especially if we don't have that type of authority in the real world. If you're not going around just pointing, telling people what to do, if that's not your role in real life, oh, do this, do that, do this, do that. If you're only utilizing that power with your kid, then you're setting your kid up for failure. That's what I'm trying to get at. It's like, bitch, if you don't do that shit on a daily, why are you gonna abuse that position with your son or your daughter or whoever it is that you're guardian over? No, you know what I mean? Don't be this fucking person behind closed doors when nobody's looking, because you know damn well that kid is gonna listen. You're feeding them, right? You have authority over them. You're bigger than them, so of course they're gonna fucking listen. I don't recommend that, because long term, it's not an effective strategy. You're fucking up that kid's future. You're making that kid. You're suppressing that kid. You're teaching that kid to listen to fear. You're teaching that kid to listen to fear, and that's not a good way to operate on this fucking world. That's not an effective way to operate in this world. As a grown-up, we have to humble ourselves and realize that if you don't always get what you want in the real world, don't expect to get what the fuck you want with a kid. That kid is learning from you. So if you failed in life, don't take that shit out on that person. You have to do your best to humble yourself and let that young kid become a better person and develop based off of your insecurities and your fuck ups. Not bring them down to your level so that you feel above them. Keep growing. Keep doing everything within your power to stay mentally focused. And just remember, the people that you respect the most, 9 times out of 10, are the people that you need to get the fuck away from. Keep growing. And remember, we are one.